What's up everybody, it's Izzo, welcome to the lab and welcome to Devlog 5. Today in the lab we're back at it again trying to fix the lag in the Neo colonies, aka CodeName AllNight. In the last two videos we reworked saving and loading, but there was a problem with saving. It just didn't work. I did get a few tests in after the video to try and see the problem. It's weird, the game sometimes saves everything and sometimes it doesn't. The only real way to get an understanding of the problem is to look at all the values at once, which is what we're working on today. Designing a custom debugger that shows us all that information. Real quick before we get started, while I was trying to diagnose the problem and plan how to implement the debugger, I did find that there are two major errors in the code. It's just my luck that both of them don't explain or fix the saving errors we're facing. The first error is with the global consoles. Their X and Y positions aren't loaded in, and that's because they aren't saved at all. I neglected to move saving their positions to the update portion of the code, so the first step was just adding those actions in. The second error is just a mistake on my part. I started to add in the actions to modify the list upon loading the objects in, but for some reason I stopped. I must have thought I was finished. This doesn't affect saving initially, but if we were to load in a save game, then the list would get stuck. So yeah, I spent some time before the video just adding everything in. I haven't tested the game in the same capacity yet. I might as well do that with you guys on screen. That seems like a good way to kick off the video. So I'll see you guys in just a second with the test game loaded up. Okay, so plot twist. I was starting the test game when it occurred to me that anytime the update file flag of an object is toggled, that's when modifications to the list takes place. That modification I'm speaking of is when the list actually drops the file keyword. If this were to occur during regular gameplay, that means the list is now pretty much corrupted. Once our system encounters it, it won't know what to do with it. Now for the problem we have. All the predictable and initial places where this flag is toggled I already edited. For some objects, they have separate sections of logic that do toggle this flag, which is why in video 3 when I said the problem is with the rundown housing, I was correct. Here's the code that contains the toggling of the update file flag. Here the crates for the housing is spawned, meaning on the object spawn, it instantly modifies its list entry, breaking our saving and loading logic. How many objects this happens for, you ask? Well, I don't know exactly, but that is why the debugger is looking more and more like the promised land for this logic to work correctly. Alright guys, we're back. I applied the other changes and now we're looking at a test game I started. Before we start implementing the debugger, let's just see how a couple of tests go. Now that the problem is known, I can kind of guess what items may cause the list to be corrupted. Also, I really want to see this work, I'm not gonna lie to you guys. My thinking is like this. Hopefully the test goes right, then we add in the debugger more as a precaution. Basically anytime the game gets stuck saving, we'll have that diagnostic ready to go. So let's get to testing. Just gonna pause this and let's do it. So I'm just gonna go ahead and do the normal thing, do some looting, do my thingy thing. I'm also gonna run off the screen. I'm really excited, I'm not gonna lie to you guys. Also, I did extend this list a little bit just so I can see the codes a little bit clearer too. And yeah, we're just gonna keep running. I wanna come across some buildings and come across hopefully an environment. I haven't really broken that down yet, but anything like this would be an environment, and this one works perfectly. I'm scared to go off again because of that guy. It looks like I can hit him though, so let's get it. Oh, okay. Well, he can't hit me. That's the good thing. I don't know why his positioning is messing up, but let's just kill him so that way I could peacefully save and load. I don't know what he's running towards or running. Where is he going? There we go. Okay, let's get it. And I'm just gonna save. Everything should go smoothly now. Fingers crossed, anyways. There we go, everything's writing correctly. Nothing's getting stuck. Alright, there we go. Success on the load, or on the saving. Now we're just gonna try to load this. I'm sorry for the fan noise, you guys. So yeah, it tells us how many objects needed, and we're in. Alright, yep, everything's successful. I am so happy. That means that yes, we can just go ahead and implement that debugger as a precaution, because this is working correctly at this point. Yes. That means playthroughs, all types of stuff coming. We're gonna get some more stuff going too. Yes. Alright. I'll see you guys back here in just a second. We're about to get to that game plan of the debugger. Okay guys, so before we get started on some real plotting and action taking, quick correction. There is actually a debugger in the game already. This is what it looks like. If it'll come up. There we go. Yeah, so basically this debugger is only designed to track the skills in the game. These armor, melee, and skill values, all they really do is they just track what's going on with the skills in the game. And yes, there are skills in the game, but the skills in the game, they're actually designed with the intention to be more passive than anything. The point is that if you want to get more into the game, farming and then like real survival stuff, then there are facilities that allow for higher returns on materials, among other things. So basically I just wanted to come into this test game again and then show you guys what this looks like, but honestly this whole thing we're going to be tearing out in just a second. So I'll see you guys back here so that way we can get started. Okay, so first up we're looking at the frame editor. Specifically we're paying attention to the layers toolbar on the right over here and the debugger layer. That's the layer we're going to be working on. So the debugger that we have now actually runs on a separate frame and is displayed on this frame by using a sub application object. It does just what it sounds like. It either takes another application or another frame from the same application and it displays it in the current frame as we just seen. So the plan is to tear this whole thing out and replace it with a local debugger. And by local, I mean its debugger is in this frame. So we got some objects over here that we're already working with. What we got is we have a list, and if you guys remember from video 2, this is actually the same object that I used to display all the results from the tic-tac-toe game. It's basically allowing for like easy insertion of like strings or data into it, and it also provides convenient facilities to save its contents to a file. And then lastly, what we got over here is we have the edit box, and this edit box, what we're going to be doing with it is we're going to actually be using it to enter commands to make it display certain data into this list. And oh yeah, one more thing. All of these file lists that we were working with in the last 2 videos, they have been moved over to layer 60 now. So that way, basically what I was thinking, the plan is we're going to actually be displaying the list using commands. And then that's how we're going to start being able to diagnose what object is that we need to be paying attention to fix. So yeah, I'll see you guys back here in just a second so we can start banging out the logic. Okay, so now that we got that in there, everything for all these objects, the new debugger objects that we have should now show up correctly. And now we're gonna come down here, and this is where actually everything is toggled at. So this is a little bit messy, but what we're gonna start off by doing is just deleting these last 2 events down here, because those deal with the sub app and we're no longer dealing with that. Now for these ones, we're actually gonna modify them. So just a little recap. What's going on is up here what I did is I added in this hide. I made it so the list and the edit box could be hidden and they can be shown depending on this access value. This access value is actually toggled down here now, and if you press tab while it's accessed as 0, then you'll get 1, and vice versa. If it's accessed as 1 and you press tab, you got 0. And also I just added in an extra escape, so if you press the escape key, it'll also be 0 exiting the menu. So let's just go ahead and start testing that now. Alright, here we are, and let's see if it works. Yep, we got our debugger up, and the other one doesn't show up anymore. That's amazing. Alright, so we can stop this now. Actually, let's go ahead and do it the correct way since it works. Okay, so now that we have the accessing of the debugger out the way, it's time to give it function. The first thing is all the objects for the debugger have been moved to the upper right corner. Really, I'm just trying to find the best placement for it. It's kind of frustrating with how much space everything takes up on the screen, but oh well. Second is the lists have all been resized to reveal more information for bigger IDs. Next up are the new objects I added in. First up is this black background, and then second is this text, this string right here that just says text for right now. So what these two objects are going to do is they're actually going to display more persistent information, because right here this list is only going to dump like information that's pertinent when it's like when we ask the list to give it to us. But right here we're going to actually be keeping track of values that are basically changing all the time. One example is the generation information, and those values, what those are used for is it's the environment, and like it tells us which environment we're in, if any. With that being out the way, the next thing is these buttons down here. These buttons are going to allow us to basically navigate each of the lists. There are 7 lists in total. Here are the other ones up here. And so each one of these buttons right here are going to basically make it so we can navigate through those correctly. And with all of the new changes out the way, let's talk about functionality. Our main priority at this point is to add in the ability to monitor all lists and their values, and also dump lists that are unsanitized to a file in the case of a failure to save or load. And when I say unsanitized, I mean like, you guys remember how when we bring it in, it said like when we have all the objects write itself to the list, it also appends that write keyword on it. We want to keep those things in there when we dump the list to a file, just because we'll be able to get an idea of which object is acting up. So in order to get started with that, what we're going to start by doing is actually adding in this the ability to make these lists disappear and reappear. The reason why we're doing this is because once we're done with testing this and ironing out all the bugs and loose ends of this, technically these lists we won't need them anymore. So there's 2 options that we can go through from there, which is either rip them out of the debugger code and take out the objects completely, or just hide them and make it so basically if we need to refer back to them again, we can. So that's where we're going to get started at first. So let me go ahead and introduce you guys to some values we're going to be using to help with that. First up is this list index value. That's going to control which list is being displayed. It's going to have a value of 0 through 6 for all 7. 0 is the first, 6 is the 7th. And then this show list flag down here. This is actually what's going to be controlling the overall visibility of this. The debugger will have to be active in order for the list to show up, but this flag will have to be on in order for that, and we'll actually be controlling that flag through a command. So let's get started. Alright, so let me walk you guys through what I just did. So here we got the showing list, and for the showing list, what we're looking for is that that show list flag being on, and we're looking at the list index. And then depending on the list index, that's how we're going to toggle each list. So we got 0, 0's for the tree file list, all the way down to 6, which is the NPC file list. So now we'll be able to get a good look at every single one of them depending on which one is open. Same thing for the hiding list, just the opposite of what's going on with the showing list. With the showing of the list, the flag has to be off, and depending on the list index, that list has to be looked at, and if it's visible, then it's hidden. Alright, so here we are in a test game, and we're just going to test to make sure that the showing and the hiding of the list work so far. And I got the debugger collider inside of the built-in debugger right here. Oh, that's kind of complicated. But got sidetracked. But I got that open, and what that's going to be able to do is we're going to be able to toggle this show list flag right here, so that way we can actually see it. So right now there's no list being displayed. Ignore those buttons for right now. We're going to add those in just a second. But this show list right here, what we're going to do is we're just going to set it to true and see what happens. Okay, and now we can see all of the file keyword, we can see the tree list file. So that's good. Let me see if it works for turning it off as well. It works for turning it off as well. All right. So now let's get in there and try to work on these buttons right here. Alright guys, so we did a lot today, and honestly there's still a lot to get done, but I'm gonna call it here. So far we have a solid interface for the debugger as well as a way to access and exit the menu. Next devlog will be given the buttons functionality by adding in the facilities to navigate the file list, and we'll start adding in commands to the debugger. Thanks everyone for joining me in the lab today. We got a lot done, and I'm glad to share that experience with you guys. Leave a like if you enjoyed today's lab project, let me know what you think in the comments, and subscribe to join me in the lab for more experiments and projects. Alright guys, have a good one, and see you for the next one.